Drop that tray and get out. She is not your problem." The man in the expensive suit snapped it so loud the whole diner felt it. The waitress froze mid-step, a spoon in her hand, while his disabled mother sat beside the window, trembling food, untouched. People stared, then looked away. The waitress didn't run. She didn't argue. She only leaned closer to the older woman, wiped a spill from her chin, and kept feeding her slowly. Like kindness was a job she would not quit. Across the room, a billionaire watched with a face that went still for a reason no one understood yet. The lakeside diner. It's the kind of place where the coffee never stopped, and the floor always smelled faintly like breakfast and bleach. Much it was. Small, warm, and worn, in a way that meant people had cried here and laughed here and kept coming back anyway. Rain tapped soft against the windows, making the neon sign glow like a quiet heartbeat. Maya Johnson had been on shift since dawn. At 26, black, slim, with tired eyes that still carried light. Her uniform was clean but old, the kind you mend, because you can't afford to replace it. She moved through tables with gentle efficiency, refilling cups, balancing plates, smiling even when her feet burned. Tips were her lifeline. Her rent was late again. Her little brother's school fees were due next week. She had learned to count money by what it could keep from breaking. Her father died when she was 15, leaving a hole that never fully closed. Her mother worked 2 jobs until her back gave out. Maya became a second parent too early, cooking meals, helping homework, holding the family up with hands still meant for childhood. She wanted to study nursing once. She still did, quietly, between shifts and bills. But dreams become thin when survival gets loud. That morning, she noticed the older woman at table 7 struggling to lift her fork. The woman's hands shook, badly, and her right side seemed slower, heavier. Her eyes were cloudy but kind. Her son sat across from her, stiff and impatient, checking his phone more than her face. He had the sharp suit, the gold watch, the air of a man who hated being delayed by anything human. The older woman tried to eat. A bite fell. Then another. She whispered sorry each time, even though she had done nothing wrong. Her son sighed like her weakness was an insult to his schedule. Maya had seen this kind of pain before. Her mother's hands had once trembled from exhaustion too. She didn't ask permission. She walked over with a soft smile and said she could help. The son lifted his head, annoyed, and said no. He said his mother didn't need a stranger's pity. He said they were fine. But the older woman looked up at Maya with quiet relief. You know, the way people look at water when they are thirsty and ashamed of it. She nodded yes, barely. So Maya pulled a chair close. She cut the pancakes into smaller pieces. She steadied the spoon. She fed her slowly, bite by bite, speaking gently about the rain, about the fresh coffee, about nothing serious enough to make the woman feel small. The older woman relaxed. Her shoulders dropped. Her eyes softened. She ate without fear. That is when the son snapped. He told Maya to drop the tray and get out. He told her she was overstepping. He called her help disrespectful. The word he really meant was embarrassing. He wanted his mother's disability to stay hidden because he thought weakness reflected on him. The diner went silent. A thin, sharp silence full of people who didn't want trouble but hated what they were seeing. A few faces turned away. A few hands tightened around mugs. No one moved. Maya felt the heat of shame crawl up her neck. She could have stood up, apologized, walked away. She needed her job. She needed her tips. She didn't have the luxury of heroes. But then she saw the older woman's eyes fill with tears. Not loud tears. The small, crushed kind that come from being treated like a burden too many times. Maya stayed. She lowered her voice and said she was only helping because she cared. She said the woman deserved to eat with dignity. She didn't speak to the son. She spoke to the human being under his anger, hoping it was still there. The son stood, furious, reaching for his mother's wheelchair handle like he was about to drag her out just to prove a point, and that is when a man from the back booth rose. Elliot. Vance, 47, the kind of name the city knew from headlines and tall buildings. He was a billionaire who owned half the tech parks in town, but he dressed plain today, dark coat, quiet posture. He had walked into the diner to escape a meeting, to breathe without cameras. He expected coffee and silence, not a mirror held. Up to his own past, Elliot had grown up poor, raised by a mother who worked nights as a cleaner. She had Ms., her muscles weakening year by year, but her pride never let her ask for help. Elliot remembered being 12, watching her struggle to hold a spoon and feeling helpless fury at a world that looked past her. He remembered strangers who mocked her shaking hands. He remembered one nurse at a clinic who knelt beside her and fed her soup without making her feel ashamed. That moment had stayed in him like a quiet fire. He saw that same fire in Maya now. Elliot walked to their table. The whole diner felt him before he spoke. Not because he was famous, but because true authority has a weight. He asked the son if this was his mother. The son turned, ready to argue, then froze when he recognized the face. His power drained out of him in one breath. He stammered, trying to explain, suddenly polite, suddenly small. Elliot didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He looked at the older woman and asked if she was okay. She nodded weakly, embarrassed, eyes down. Elliot placed a hand on the table and said a line that made the diner feel lighter. No one who needs help should ever have to beg for it, not from family, not from strangers. The son tried to speak again, but Elliot lifted one finger, quiet and final. He told the son to sit down. He told him to watch how respect is done. Then Elliot pulled a chair beside his mother's table and asked Maya if he could help too. She blinked, confused, nervous. She said it was okay. She had it. Elliot smiled softly and said he knew she did. He just wanted to say thank you. The diner breathed again. Maya finished feeding the older woman, slow and gentle. Elliot stayed beside them, not holding a speech, just holding space. The son sat frozen, learning in silence what his money hadn't taught him. When the older woman finished eating, Maya wiped her mouth and helped her sip water. The woman squeezed Maya's hand with the fragile strength of gratitude. Elliot walked Maya to the counter after they left the table. He asked her name. He asked how long she had worked here. He listened in a way rich men rarely do when they are used to being listened to. Maya told him, careful, humble. She didn't tell him her whole life. She didn't need pity, just answered honestly. Elliot asked what she wanted to do beyond the diner. Maya hesitated, then said nursing. She said it softly, like a dream she didn't trust the air with. She laughed a little, embarrassed by her own hope. Elliot didn't laugh. He said the world needs people who don't look away. He said skill matters, but heart changes lives. Said he had a foundation that paid for school for people who served others with quiet courage. He asked if she would let him help her apply. Maya thought she misheard him. Her hand shook a little. Elliot slid a card across the counter, not flashy. Just a name and number, he said, to call tomorrow. Said he would cover her tuition if she wanted to study. He said he would also connect her with a hospital internship through his network, not as charity, but as investment in the kind of person he trusted. Maya's throat tightened. She tried to refuse. He didn't let her. Sometimes the door you need opens because you opened one for someone else. By the time Maya looked up, Elliot was already leaving the diner, walking back into the rain with the same quiet step he had entered with. His presence lingered like warmth after a storm. In the weeks that followed, everything shifted. Maya enrolled in nursing school. The diner became a part-time job instead of a life sentence. Her brother's fees were paid. Her mother cried when she saw Maya in her first set of scrubs. It's not because money had arrived, but because hope had returned. Elliot didn't hover. He didn't turn her story into promotion. Checked in quietly, once a month, like someone who understood how pride and gratitude can clash. Maya kept working hard, because the gift felt like a responsibility she wanted to honor. And the older woman, Elliot later learned, had no one feeding her at home. He arranged a care team for her through the same foundation. He made sure her days were gentler. Not because he was saving the world. It's because he wasn't going to watch another mother suffer alone if he had the power to change it. One moment in a diner had started a chain no one could predict. A waitress chose dignity over fear. A billionaire chose memory over silence. A disabled mother ate a meal without shame. A cruel son learned that authority without kindness is just noise. If this story moved you, comment where you're watching from and tell us about a time you saw quiet kindness change a life. Subscribe for more stories that honor the real heroes. Sitting right beside us, unnoticed, until their hearts speak louder than the room,